Hello, hello. Welcome to Solving with AWS Solutions, your deep dive into reference architectures built by AWS that are ready to deploy instantly in the cloud. I'm Rob, and I'm here with Eric.
Today we're going to be talking about distributed load testing on AWS. This solution lets you test your application by simulating thousands of users sending traffic to your endpoint.
Sounds great. Let's take a look. All right, let's hear about distributed load testing on AWS.
Absolutely. So here we've got the landing page for the solution, and we've got links to our implementation guide where you can get some instructions on how to deploy it and details about the solution. We've also got a link to our CloudFormation template, so you can deploy that right into your account with one click. And then we've got a link to our source code, which is open source. It's on GitHub.
So lots of good resources for our customers to use.
Absolutely.
Let's bring up the architecture diagram and take a look.
Sure. So here we have the architecture diagram.
Nice. Looks like we have front and back end. So let's walk through the front end first. Where is this being hosted?
So we've got the application hosted in an S3 bucket distributed with a CloudFront distribution. And it's a kind of very standard application using Amplify to interact with the backend.
And this is where we're going to configure the actual parameters for the load testing itself.
Yes, exactly.
And how's that authenticated?
So we're using Cognito as our authentication layer. So that handles our authentication and authorization.
All right. So switching to the back end now, let's talk about the Docker image. What are we doing with the Docker image?
Sure. So we've got this Docker image pipeline, which will run through and build a Taurus container image and store that into your account.
What is Taurus?
So Taurus is an open source testing application and that is hosted on Docker Hub. So when you deploy the solution, we will pull that image into an S3 bucket in your account, and then there's a code pipeline and code build project that will build that image.
So this is the software that you're actually going to be using to drive the load for the testing of your application.
Exactly.
And it's hosted where?
Once it's built, we'll host it in Amazon Container Registry in your account.
Okay, cool. So what's happening when we actually launch one of the tests?
Sure. So when you launch a test, a step functions workflow will become initiated. So that's happening here. That will manage bringing up all the containers in Fargate, and then when they're all ready to start testing, it will actually initiate the test.
And those step functions are configured as part of the CloudFormation template?
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. So now we have these containers running, and this is where the load is actually being generated?
That's right, yeah. So now your application endpoint is being hit with those simulated users.
Okay, cool. And where are the results stored?
So we store the results in DynamoDB. So after each container is done, it will report its output into DynamoDB, and then when the entire workflow is done, it will collate all those results into a single result that you can see in the dashboard.
Nice. Can you show me what the front end looks like? What does the UX look like?
Yep, absolutely. So flip over here. And this is our main dashboard where you can see previous tests that you've run, any tests that are currently running. And then you can go up here and create a new test.
What are some of the highlights of the parameters we need to look at when we're creating a new test?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing you do, you give your test a name and a description. And then down here is where you actually start configuring your test. So the task count is the number of containers that you want to spin up.
Is there a maximum for the number?
Yes, you can go up to 1,000 containers.
Okay. And what is the concurrency?
So concurrency is for each individual container, how many users do we want to simulate?
All right. And is there a maximum on that? Recommended amount, maybe?
Recommended amount is about 200.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we recommend.
All right, nice. What other parameters are there?
So ramp up and hold for. So ramp up is how long do you want it to take to get to the maximum amount of concurrent users?
Okay.
And then once you're at that maximum, how long do you want to hold that?
So it's not just an immediate blast of thousands and thousands of users. Okay,
Exactly,
gotcha.
yeah. And then down here is where you can actually say whether you want to run this on demand, run now, or run on a schedule.
Oh, that's nice. So you could schedule periodic tests of this?
Yeah, you can schedule daily, weekly, or you can just schedule a one-time test at some point in the future.
Okay, cool. What else we got?
So up here is where you kind of detail the scenario of the test. So we have two options here. So you can do a single HTTP endpoint, which is basically just get, post, delete requests, or you can run a JMeter test.
Okay.
So JMeter is an open source testing framework that we also support with the solution. So you can select that, and then with HTTP, we have different HTTP methods. You can configure headers, and then you can select what endpoint you want to hit, maybe a request payload.
So some flexibility in the type of load that we're actually driving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. So can we see some of the results of some of the tests you've run?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back here to the dashboard. And then if we look at a previous test that I've run, let's check out this one.
Okay.
So you see this one is one I ran a little bit earlier, and it's completed. So now if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see some statistics about the average response time, the average latency, and then all the way at the bottom, you can see a history. So you can see over time, I've run this test several times, and you can see all the major metrics for each individual test.
And this dashboard, again, was pre-built as part of the CloudFormation template, automatically gathering all these metrics?
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty cool. Lots of ways to test the application.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us as we explore distributed load testing on AWS.
You can find this and many other great solutions on our AWS Solutions website.
Thanks for watching.